What happens when a family's picture-perfect facade cracks under the weight of dark secrets? At 24, I found myself at the mercy of my sister's violent jealousy, pushed down a flight of stairs and abandoned by the very people who were supposed to protect me. But as the truth emerged, so did my path to freedom, revealing the shocking betrayal and the start of my long-overdue liberation. Let me know if you'd like any changes. You're pathetic, my sister Olivia hissed, her hands planted firmly on my shoulders at the top of the hospital stairs. Mom and Dad will never believe you anyway. My name is Emma Sullivan, and at 24, I found myself staring into the eyes of my 28-year-old sister as she stood over me with that familiar look of contempt. We were supposed to be visiting our grandmother after her surgery, but Olivia had cornered me in the stairwell away from watchful eyes. Or so she thought. Move, Olivia, I said firmly, trying to step around her. Grandma's waiting, she laughed, that cold sound I'd grown up hearing. Always the perfect granddaughter, aren't you? Making everyone else look bad with your daily visits and your little care packages. I tried to keep my voice steady. This isn't about you, it's about Grandma. Everything is about you, Emma. It always has been. Poor little Emma, so smart, so caring, so perfect. Her grip on my shoulders tightened. I'm sick of it. I saw the push coming but couldn't stop it. Her hands shoved hard against my shoulders, and suddenly, the world was spinning. The stairs rushed up to meet me, each edge hitting a different part of my body as I tumbled down. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. When I finally stopped at the landing, everything hurt. Through blurred vision, I saw Olivia rush down the stairs, but not to help me. She was pulling out her phone, dialing frantically. Mom, Dad, come. Quick. Emma fell down the stairs, she said. I tried to catch her, but I couldn't reach her in time. I tried to speak to tell the truth, but the pain in my ribs made every breath agony. Within minutes, my parents burst through the stairwell, door rushing to us. Oh my God, Emma, Mom cried out. But she went to Olivia first, hugging her. You poor thing. You must have been so scared watching your sister fall. Dad knelt beside me, his face stern. Emma, what were you thinking? Running in a stairwell at your age? I managed to whisper through the pain. I didn't. Olivia pushed. Don't you dare, Olivia cut in, tears streaming down her face. Perfect. Calculated tears. I tried to save you. How can you lie about this? Mom's face hardened. Must stop it? Your sister is traumatized enough without you making up stories. Thaw. Door burst open again, this time revealing a medical team led by a tall woman in scrubs. Her name tag read, Nurse Martinez. What happened here? She demanded, kneeling beside me. Before anyone could speak, a younger nurse rushed in, holding a tablet, her face grave. Not now, my mother interrupted. Our daughter had an accident. She was running and fell down the stairs. Her sister tried to catch her. Nurse Martinez's eyes narrowed slightly. She looked at the tablet, then at Olivia, then at me. Something in her expression shifted. Mrs. Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan, I need you to step back. We have to examine your daughter. Her tone left no room for argument. As the medical team worked, I heard Nurse Martinez speaking quietly into her phone. Security, I need the footage from stairwell B last 10 minutes. Yes. Send it directly to Dr. Kane and contact hospital administration. My sister's face went pale. What footage? That's when we all noticed it. The small security camera in the corner of the stairwell, its red light blinking steadily. It had captured everything. Standard hospital security, Nurse Martinez said calmly, though her eyes were still. Every stairwell is monitored. For patient safety, of course. This is a family matter, my father began, but the nurse cut him off. Sir, what I just witnessed on that security feed is assault. This isn't a family matter anymore. Olivia's tears dried instantly. You can't prove anything. Camera footage doesn't lie, Nurse Martinez replied. Unlike some people. As they loaded me onto a stretcher, I saw my sister's perfect facade cracking. My parents stood frozen, their world of carefully maintained appearances beginning to crumble. Nurse Martinez leaned down close to me as they wheeled me out. You're safe now, she whispered. We won't let them sweep this under the rug. For the first time in years, I believed someone might finally see the truth behind my family's perfect image. But as they rolled me toward the emergency room, I caught one last glimpse of Olivia's face. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The emergency room was a blur of activity. X-rays revealed 2 broken ribs, a sprained wrist, and multiple contusions. As the doctors worked, I could hear my parents in the hallway, their voices rising in desperation. This is ridiculous, my father's voice boomed. We're not allowing our daughter to be interrogated like a criminal. Your daughter pushed her sister down a flight of stairs, Nurse Martinez replied calmly. The police have already been called. It was an accident, my mother insisted. Family matters should be handled within the family. Through the curtain, I saw Nurse Martinez step closer to them. Mrs. Sullivan, in the past hour, we've reviewed security footage from previous visits. This isn't the first incident we've captured in our stairwells. The silence that followed was deafening. My heart stopped. They had found the other videos. 3 months ago, Olivia had accidentally knocked me into the wall outside Grandma's room. 2 months before that, she tripped me near the water fountain. Small incidents, always with witnesses, always with my parents nearby to dismiss my claims and comfort Olivia's theatrical distress. Dr. Kane, the attending physician, pulled the curtain closed, blocking my view of the hallway drama. "Emma," Nurse Kane said gently, "we need to talk about your previous hospital visits." I stared at my hands, avoiding her eyes. "I'm clumsy, Emma," I said. Her voice was firm, but kind. "We have 6 documented accidents in the past year alone, all with your sister present. I'll dismiss as your fault." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. "You don't understand. My parents, Your parents aren't in charge anymore," she interrupted. "You're an adult, Emma, and we're mandated reporters. This stops today." Detective Morris arrived shortly after, a kind-faced woman with steady eyes and a notebook. As she interviewed me, pieces of my family's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. "Has your sister always been violent towards you?" I hesitated. "It escalated after Grandma changed her will last year." "Changed her will?" The detective's eyebrows raised. "What's it worth?" "About $1.2 million. It's in the historic district." "That's quite a motive." Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a video file followed by a message. "Thought you might need this, Jake? Hospital security." The video showed Olivia in the stairwell an hour before she pushed me, talking on her phone. "I don't care what it takes. Once Grandma's gone, that house is mine. Emma won't be a problem. Much longer. One more accident should convince her to give up her claim." Detective Morris watched the video, her expression hardening. "This changes things. We're not just looking at assault now. This was premeditated." A commotion outside drew our attention. Grandma had somehow made her way down from her room, still in her hospital gown, Dr. Kane supporting her. "I want to see my granddaughter," she demanded, her voice carrying that familiar authority that even my parents couldn't challenge. She took one look at me lying in the hospital bed, then turned to my parents. "How long have you been covering for Olivia?" "Mother?" my mom started, but Grandma cut her off. "I've watched you dismiss Emma's injuries for years." I said nothing, hoping you'd finally see the truth. But this, she gestured at the security, footage playing on Detective Morris's tablet, "this ends now." Olivia stepped forward, her face a mask of innocence. "Grandma, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Grandma snapped. "I understand that money and jealousy matter more to you than family. I understand that your parents have enabled your behavior until it escalated to attempted murder." "Murder?" my father sputtered. "That's absurd," my mother added. "Detective," Morris cleared her throat. "Actually, sir, given the premeditation evidence and the height of that stairwell, attempted murder charges aren't off the table." I watched as Olivia's perfect mask finally shattered completely, her face contorted with rage as she pointed at me. "This is all your fault. You've ruined everything." 2 police officers appeared in the doorway, handcuffs ready. As they led Olivia away, I saw something I'd never seen before in my sister's eyes. Fear. The same fear I'd lived with for years. Grandma sat beside my bed, taking my hand in hers. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I should have done something sooner." But we both knew this wasn't over. Thrown out by my mother for refusing an arranged marriage, I was cast out into the cold with nothing but my dreams. But years later, I returned to my hometown in a private jet, holding my daughter's hand, unrecognizable from the girl who, once fled, now armed with success and a life built on my own terms. This is the story of resilience, freedom, and the haunting choice to reclaim my life, no matter the cost. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments. "You're a disgrace," my mom yelled, just because I refused to marry the man she picked for me. Then she slapped me and threw me out. I didn't say a word. Years later, they watched me step off a private jet holding their granddaughter, and they stood there completely speechless. Years ago, my own mother called me a disgrace, slapped me across the face, and threw me out of our home. Her unforgivable crime. I refused to marry the man she'd chosen for me. Tonight, I returned to that very same hometown on my private jet with my 5-year-old daughter Emma by my side. The look on my parents' faces when they saw us step out of that car? Absolutely priceless. Growing up in the Turner household meant living under a microscope. My parents, Margaret and Robert Turner, weren't just conservative. They were controlling in a way that dictated every single aspect of my life. Our suburban home in Pennsylvania looked like something out of a magazine. Manicured lawns, gleaming, white windows. But inside those walls, it was a completely different story. My mother, Margaret, ruled with an iron fist, even while wearing her designer gloves. She was obsessed with appearances and social standing, and every decision she made revolved around how her family would be perceived. My father, Robert, a quiet accountant, rarely challenged her. He'd just nod along, sometimes throwing me apologetic glances when her criticism turned particularly harsh. A proper young lady doesn't question her mother's wisdom became her go-to line whenever I dared to show a hint of independence. By the time I was 15, these confrontations were an everyday occurrence. My crimes? Wanting to join the debate team instead of cotillion classes. Getting a part-time job at a bookstore instead of volunteering at her country club charity events. Or, heaven forbid, wearing jeans instead of the floral dresses she laid out for me. "You're embarrassing the family with these rebellious phases," she'd snap, her voice like a whip, yet somehow still managing to maintain that perfect smile. The Johnson's daughter never gives them this much trouble. Our dining room became a battleground of daily lectures about my posture, my grades, excellent, but never excellent enough, and how my attitude would ensure I'd never attract a quality husband. My father would just stare at his plate during these moments, occasionally muttering, "Listen to your mother, Samantha." His cowardice hurt more than her direct attacks. As my senior year of high school approached, the topic of my future husband became a constant refrain. My mother had been meticulously cultivating a relationship with the Wilsons, a new family in our community. Their son, Marcus, was 33. I was 18, recently divorced, and the heir to his father's real estate development company. He had the right pedigree, the right connections, and according to my mother, was my perfect match. He's established, successful, and from a good family, she'd gush after their visits. "You should be flattered. He's shown interest in you." What my mother saw as interest, I recognized as something far more unsettling. The way Marcus looked at me during dinner parties made my skin crawl. His eyes would linger too long. His comments about me blossoming into a beautiful young woman were delivered with a smile that never quite reached his cold eyes. When he'd accidentally brush against me or place his hand on the small of my back, I felt sick to my stomach. Meanwhile, I had secret dreams of my own. I wanted to study business and marketing. Late at night, I'd research colleges with strong business programs, schools far away from Pennsylvania. I kept brochures hidden beneath my mattress like contraband. When college application season arrived, I applied to 7 schools without my parents' knowledge, using money I'd saved from babysitting to cover the fees. My acceptance letter from the University of California, Berkeley arrived on a Tuesday. I hid it in my desk drawer, simultaneously elated and terrified. That same evening, my mother announced that the Wilsons would be joining us for dinner that weekend for a very special occasion. The knowing look she gave my father sent a chill down my spine. "We have such wonderful news," she told me, patting my hand in a rare display of affection. "You'll finally understand why I've been so hard on you all these years. Everything I've done has been to prepare you for this moment." As the week progressed, my mother was unusually pleasant, helping me pick an outfit for the dinner, even scheduling a hair salon appointment for me. Her sudden kindness only amplified my anxiety. The acceptance letter burned in my desk drawer like a live coal, representing everything I wanted versus everything that was being planned for me without my consent. The night before the dinner, I overheard my parents talking in hushed tones in their bedroom. "She's too young," my father said, showing a rare moment of backbone. "Nonsense," my mother replied. "I was 19 when we married. Besides, the Wilsons are offering a very generous arrangement. This connection will secure her future and help with your partnership track at the firm. Everyone wins." I backed away from their door, my heart pounding. They weren't just planning a marriage. They were negotiating a business transaction. And I was the commodity being sold. The punctuation has been added to ensure clarity and improve the readability of the narrative. Let me know if you'd like me to continue or make any adjustments. My cousin Derek loved making fun of my stutter at every family dinner. He'd bang his fist and go, "Got promoted," until everyone laughed. At his wedding, he took the mic for his big 25-minute speech and started with, "Brittany and I first met at a CCC." Derek was the golden boy of our family. Perfect teeth, perfect job, perfect everything. But he had one habit that made every family gathering pure hell for me. He loved mocking my stutter. I've had it since I was 7. I got hit by a car riding my bike, traumatic brain injury, 3 months relearning how to talk. Most days it's barely noticeable, but when I'm nervous or on the spot, my words get stuck like cars in a traffic jam. Derek picked up on it fast. Christmas dinner, 2019. I'm telling my aunt about my new job. I got promoted, I say. Get pro-moted. Derek shouts, machine gunning the syllables while pounding his fist. Silence falls. Sorry, couldn't help myself. He scans the room. Hey, remember when he tried to order pizza last year? Can I have a large? The delivery guy hung up. He wasn't even there when I ordered, but everyone laughed. Even my mom gave a weak chuckle, just to keep the peace. Aunt Linda, Derek's mom, wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. Oh, Derek, you're terrible, she cooed, proud, despite herself. Thanksgiving, 2020. Derek shows up with props, a handheld buzzer, Each time I spoke, he'd hit it. Times I. Up, next contestant. 2 weeks later, my girlfriend dumped me. She couldn't handle that family dynamic. Easter 2021. He recruits his brother, then their dad. Soon half the dinner table was stuttering mockingly whenever I spoke. Derek even played translator. What Jimmy means, he'd announce, is he's grateful for this meal. It only took him 5 minutes to say it. But we're patient people. Smart move. Never did it when my dad was around. Dad would have knocked his teeth out. Derek hid behind just joking and bringing levity. 4th of July 2021. At my uncle's lake house, I tell my 10-year-old cousin about fireflies. Jimmy's giving a science lesson, Derek announces. 2 beers in hand. Someone get this kid a speech therapist. My cousin looked puzzled, then laughed when all the adults did. That's when I snapped. Not in rage, but in cold resolve. I watched Derek slam his 4th beer, command the crowd, crave the attention, like oxygen. His own wedding speech had run 25 minutes. Every joke, every story, every toast, all about Derek. I decided it was time he tasted his own medicine. Labor Day weekend. Derek announces his engagement to Brittany, Pinterest obsessed. Filming everything for 200 followers. She worships his comedy. He brags at Thanksgiving. I'm writing my vows myself. None of that traditional crap. People will cry with laughter. Brittany loves my impressions. He beams. I smile, no stutter. Derek frowns. I wasn't just in speech therapy. I'd studied him, his pacing, his breathing, how he rushed excitedly. Especially his drinking. Beer made him loud, whiskey made him mean, champagne made him nervous. I befriended Tyler, a groomsman and bartender Derek once mocked for dyslexia. Over beers, Tyler laughs. He practices that speech daily, on his phone, on Brittany's ear. She's sick of it. Engagement party. Tyler sneaks me onto catering. I set up champagne flutes while Derek retells proposal to picture a 12, touching his throat. Words blurring after drink 2. When Derek leaves his phone charging, I copy his 23-minute speech, memorizing every pause and callback. Derek appears. Lost, Jimmy? He asks, voice smiling but eyes wary. Just catering duty, I lie, dish towel in hand. He stares, trembling glass. You up to something? Helping, I shrug. They're waiting for your toast, Brittany calls. We're not done, Derek whispers and walks off. He knew something was off, but not what. That uncertainty would fuel him. Over weeks, Derek spies on me. At Sunday. Dinners, birthday parties. He ambushes Tyler, insinuates I'm sabotaging him. I feed his paranoia. Whisper to cousins, leave wedding magazines on his car seat, smile mysteriously. Derek grows desperate. Meanness rising, loyalty oaths from groomsmen. Micromanaged entrances. Brittany apologizes. Memorial Day, barbecue. I let him corner me by the garage. I know you're plotting for my wedding, he snarls. Dad's spatula interrupts. Derek retreats. 3 months to the wedding. Derek's unraveling himself. June. Interior design shower. July oppressive contracts. August vendor blitz. He even schedules bathroom breaks. 2 weeks before, he bans me. Brittany's parents threaten to withdraw funding. Derek hides his speech under his pillow. Whispers it at 3 a.m. 3 days out. Drunken Derek calls. I know you're plotting. I'm ready. I say nothing. Eve of the wedding. Tyler warns. He might break. We finalize a plan so simple it's deadly. No sabotage, just conditions for his collapse. September 18th, 2 p.m., St. Mary's. Ceremony flawless. Derek paces, vows on phone. At reception, the unraveling begins. At 8:40 p.m. He taps the mic. Feedback shrieks. He clears his throat thrice, sips water, then champagne. 45. He starts, but voice cracks, pauses vanish. Cards scatter across the floor. He scrambles. 47 none. He grabs the mic, leaps into the middle, ends, then back to the start. Words tumble in chaos. Then the stutter hits. Brittany and I first met at a coffee. Irony stings. 200 pairs of eyes on Derek's. Stutter. He drops the mic and flees. Brittany freezes. The DJ kicks off the first dance. Too late. Aftermath. Derek locks himself in the suite. Torn speech cards and a crushed phone are all he leaves behind. No cake. Guests drift home early. Next dinner. His chair empty. Derek, the attention king, can't bear the spotlight. 3 weeks later. Brittany and I meet. She says Derek blames everything but himself and confesses she knew of his mockery, too scared to speak up. They're in counseling. His therapist links mockery to self-fear. Thanksgiving test. Derek returns, older, quieter. He eats in silence, listens without competing, and finds me in the kitchen. He opens, closes, then says, "I'm sorry." No speech. 2 words. We nod. No handshake, no hug. Just recognition. Winter holidays. Derek never mocks anyone. He helps clear dishes, sits quietly. We're not friends, but the war's over. 1 year later. I present at work. Stutter emerges, but I let it flow. Colleagues praise my authenticity. I think of Derek, how his quest for perfection backfired, revealing his own vulnerability. True change comes not from revenge, but from revealing the truth. His perfect wedding day ended in disaster and transformation. In that cracked facade, empathy was born. And that's how you break a cycle, by forcing someone to face their own reflection. The lock clicked into place with a finality that made my empty stomach clench. Through the kitchen door's frosted glass, I could see the shadows of my family moving around, preparing dinner. The smell of roasted chicken drifted through the gaps, making my mouth water painfully. "No Dahana year for Lee," my mother called out, loud enough for me to hear from the hallway where I stood. "Maybe tomorrow you'll remember to tell the truth." My crime? I told my teacher that I'd been too dizzy to complete my homework. Mrs. Patterson had asked if I'd eaten breakfast, and I'd accidentally let slip that I hadn't had a proper meal in 2 days. When the school called home to check on me, my mother had been furious. "We feed our daughter perfectly well," she told them coldly. "She's going through a phase where she lies for attention. We're handling it with appropriate discipline." Now, standing outside the locked kitchen, I pressed my hand against my hollow stomach. This was day 3 without a real meal. I'd managed to sneak a granola bar from my friend's lunch yesterday, but that was all. "Eleanor's eating with us tonight," I heard my father tell my younger sister through the door. "Since Jade can't seem to appreciate family dinner, she doesn't get to participate." Eleanor, my 13-year-old sister, said something I couldn't hear. Then Dad's voice louder. "She'll eat when she learns respect. A little hunger builds character." I was 17 years old and weighed 89 pounds. This discipline had started 6 months ago when I questioned why Eleanor got new clothes for school, while I had to wear the same threadbare uniforms from 2 years ago. "Ungrateful children don't deserve new things," Mother had said. "You'll get new clothes when you learn gratitude." The hunger punishments began small. No dessert, no seconds, smaller portions. But as I continued to ask questions they didn't like, express opinions they disagreed with, or show any sign of independence, the punishments escalated. Now entire meals were withheld, sometimes days of them. "You can have water," Mother had explained during the first long punishment. "And once you apologize sincerely for your behavior, we'll discuss food." The problem was the definition of sincere kept changing. I'd apologize for whatever transgression they'd identified, but it was never enough. "You're just saying what you think we want to hear," Dad would say. "When you truly understand your wrongdoing, well, no." I retreated to my room, lightheaded from standing too long. My desk was covered with homework I could barely focus on. How do you concentrate on calculus when your body is eating itself? How do you write essays when your brain is foggy from malnutrition? My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Aisha. "You okay? You looked really pale today." I wanted to tell her the truth, but what would I say? My parents locked the kitchen. They were starving me. It sounded insane even to me, and I was living it. "Just tired," I tagged back. "See you tomorrow." Tomorrow, I had to make it to tomorrow. That night, I lay in bed listening to my stomach growl. Through the thin walls, I could hear my family watching TV, laughing at some sitcom. A normal family evening, except one member was slowly wasting away in her room. I tried keeping food in my room, but Mother did regular searches. "Hoarding food is a sign of an eating disorder," she'd said when she found my hidden crackers. "We're doing this for your own good, to break these unhealthy patterns." The irony wasn't lost on me. They were creating an eating disorder while claiming to prevent one. At 3 a.m., desperate, I crept downstairs. Maybe I could find something, anything. But the kitchen door was still locked, and it had started locking the pantry too. Even the fruit bowl that used to sit on the dining table had been moved inside the kitchen. I drank water from the bathroom tap until my stomach hurt, hoping it would stop the hunger pangs. It didn't. The next morning, getting dressed for school was a challenge. My uniform hung off me like I was playing dress up in someone else's clothes. I cinched the skirt as tight as it would go, but it still slipped down my protruding hip bones. Breakfast is for family members who contribute positively to the household, Mother announced as I passed the kitchen. Through the doorway, I could see Eleanor eating pancakes. My stomach cramped violently. At school, I moved carefully, conserving energy. In PE class, I sat out claiming cramps. During lunch, I sat with Asa and tried not to stare at her sandwich. "Jade, seriously, what's wrong?" she asked. "You look sick." "I'm fine," I lied. The word's automatic now. My parents had trained me well. Family business stayed in the family. In biology class, the room started spinning. I gripped my desk, willing myself not to faint. We were studying the digestive system, of all things. Mr. Rodriguez was explaining how the body breaks down muscle tissue when it doesn't have enough fuel. The human body is remarkably adaptable, he said. In cases of severe caloric restriction, it cannibalizes its own tissue to survive. First fat stores, then muscle, eventually even organ tissue. I wondered which stage I was in. The darkness came suddenly. One moment I was taking notes, the next I was falling. My body, finally giving up its fight to function on nothing. I heard chairs scraping, voices shouting, felt hands trying to catch me as I went down. When I came to, I was in the nurse's office. Mrs. Chin, our school nurse, was leaning over me with a blood pressure cuff and a deeply concerned expression. Jade, honey, when did you last eat? I tried to calculate. The granola bar was 2 days ago. Before that, when had I last had an actual meal? The days blurred together in a haze of hunger. I'm not sure, I admitted. She helped me sit up, slowly, then gestured to the scale in the corner. I need to check your weight. I stood on the scale, swaying slightly. The digital numbers flashed, 84 pounds. I'd lost 5 pounds since last week. Mrs. Chin's face went white. Jade, I need to call for an ambulance now. No. Please, I beg, I said. My parents will be so angry. I'm fine. Honey, you're not fine. You're severely malnourished. Your blood pressure is dangerously low. This is a medical emergency. She was already dialing. Within minutes, I heard sirens. As the paramedics loaded me onto a stretcher, I saw my classmates watching through windows, their faces shocked. My secret was out. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. IV lines were inserted, blood was drawn, monitors were attached. A doctor with kind eyes and careful hands examined me while a nurse documented everything. How long have you been restricting food? Dr. Kumar asked gently. I'm not, I said automatically. I mean, I don't have an eating disorder. My parents... I stopped, the conditioning still strong. Your parents? Something in her voice, professional but compassionate, broke through my walls. They lock the kitchen, I whispered. When I'm bad, when I lie or disrespect them. No dinner for liars. That's the rule. Dr. Kumar's expression didn't change, but I saw her exchange glances with the nurse. How often does this happen? More now. This time it's been 4 days, I think. Maybe 5. I lose track. And your parents are the ones withholding food? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Dad says I need discipline. Mom says I'll eat when I learn respect, but I never learn it right. It's never enough. Dr. Kumar squeezed my hand gently. Jade, what's happening to you is not discipline. It's abuse. I need to make some calls. The next hours were a blur of tests and questions. A social worker arrived, then police officers. My parents were called to the hospital. I could hear my mother's voice in the hallway, shrill with indignation. This is ridiculous. Our daughter has an eating disorder. We've been trying to help her, she insisted. But the blood test told a different story. Severe malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, muscle wasting, organs beginning to show stress. The clinical nutritionist who reviewed my case was blunt. This is not anorexia or voluntary restriction, she said. This pattern of deprivation, the specific deficiencies, this is consistent with involuntary starvation. In my professional opinion, continuing this would have resulted in organ failure within weeks. This is attempted murder through neglect. When my parents were finally allowed in my room, they came with their lawyer. My mother's perfect composure was cracking. My father's authority was challenged by medical professionals who wouldn't defer to his demands. She's a troubled teen, my mother insisted. She lies constantly, hoards food. We were trying to break these patterns by starvation. That's when Eleanor spoke up. My little sister, who'd been brought by a social worker, looked smaller than her 13 years. They locked the kitchen, she said quietly. I hear Jade crying from hunger at night. Mom makes me eat in front of her sometimes, says it's to teach her consequences. The room fell silent. My parents stared at Eleanor in disbelief. I didn't want Jade to die, Eleanor continued, tears rolling down her cheeks. I tried to sneak her food, but Mom caught me and said, I'd be next if I didn't stop enabling her. The lawyer whispered urgently to my parents. The police officer stepped forward. The social worker moved Eleanor closer to me, away from Mom and Dad. Mr. and Mrs. Wright, the lead officer said, we're placing you under arrest for child endangerment and abuse. My mother's mask finally shattered. She screamed, ungrateful, lying little. We gave her everything except food, I whispered. I deserved it. But I don't think anyone heard me. The next days were a blur of recovery and investigation. Detectives found the locks on the kitchen, the food diary my mother kept documenting when I was allowed to eat, even a punishment. Chart showing days of dietary restriction for various infractions. Eleanor was placed with our aunt while the investigation continued. She visited me daily, bringing homework and apologies. I should have told someone, she said. I was scared they'd do it to me, too. You're 13, I reminded her. This wasn't your responsibility. Physical recovery was slow. Refeeding syndrome was a risk. My body had adapted to starvation and could be harmed by too much food too quickly. The nutritionist created a careful plan to gradually increase calories while monitoring my organs' response. Your body is resilient, she told me. But there may be lasting effects, bone density loss, potential heart damage. You'll need monitoring for years. The psychological recovery was harder. I'd been conditioned to feel guilty for eating, to associate hunger with punishment, to believe I deserved starvation. The hospital therapist worked with me daily. They convinced you that basic human needs were privileges to be earned, she explained. We need to rebuild your relationship with food around your own body's signals. 3 weeks into my hospital stay, I testified via video link for my parents' preliminary hearing. I described the escalating punishments, the days without food, the locked kitchen. The judge's face grew stonier with each detail. My parents' lawyer argued it was discipline taken too far, that they never intended harm. But the medical evidence was overwhelming. Photos of my emaciated body, brain scans showing changes consistent with starvation, the nutritionist's testimony that I'd been weeks from death. They were convicted on multiple counts of child abuse and attempted murder. My mother got 15 years, my father 12. The difference? The food diary in my mother's handwriting showed she was the primary architect of the starvation plan. At sentencing, they were allowed to make statements. My father spoke about disappointment and ingratitude. My mother cried about how hard it was to raise a difficult child. Neither apologized. Neither acknowledged they'd nearly killed me. I'm now 19, living with my aunt along with Eleanor. I'm at a healthy weight, though I still see a nutritionist regularly. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I still feel guilty for eating a full meal. I still hear my mother's voice saying I don't deserve it. But I'm learning that food is fuel, not a reward, that hunger is a signal, not a punishment, that I deserve to take up space in the world, to nourish my body, to exist without earning the right to eat. Ellen and I cook together now. She's teaching me recipes she learned from YouTube while I was locked out of the kitchen. We don't lock any doors in our aunt's house. The pantry is always open. There's always fruit on the counter. Remember when Mom said hunger builds character? Eleanor asked one day while we made pasta. Yeah, I said, adding extra cheese to my bowl just because I could. I think she was wrong, Eleanor said. Surviving her built character. The hunger just built trauma. She was right. I survived systematic starvation disguised as discipline. I lived through attempted murder disguised as parenting. And now every meal I eat is a small act of rebellion against the people who tried to erase me one locked kitchen at a time. The nutritionist was right, too. It was attempted murder. They just used hunger as their weapon instead of something more obvious. But the body keeps score, and mine told the truth. They tried to starve me into silence. I eat now 3 meals a day, snacks when I'm hungry. It's revolutionary. It's recovery. It's resistance. And it's mine. My parents made me pretend I was the one who got pregnant so my 14-year-old sister could stay in school. When I said I was losing everything I'd worked for, Mom just looked at me and said, "That's what big sisters are for." I didn't answer. That was 2 years ago. Last week, I got a graduation card for my sister. She signed it for both of us. What's the real reason your parents had you? I found out when I was 5 years old, and my parents strapped me to a table to drain my blood while I screamed that they'd only had me to keep my older brother Liam alive. Liam was born with severe hemophilia that made his blood basically water. After spending their life savings on treatments that didn't work, my parents decided to create their own solution, me. They literally conceived me to be a walking blood bag for their real son, the one they actually wanted. Once I hit 40 pounds, the bloodletting began. Mom explained it like a bedtime story that night while the black market nurse they'd hired searched for a vein in my tiny arm. "You're so special," she cooed. "God made you to save your brother. That's why you're here." But even at 5, I knew kids shouldn't exist just to be spare parts. From then on, they took my blood every month. I'd sit hooked to the machine in our basement, watching my blood flow through tubes into bags marked with Liam's name. Dad would ruffle my hair and call me our little hero, like I'd volunteered instead of being bred for it. After each session, Liam got cookies. I got dizzy spells and iron pills that made me puke. But Liam didn't like it either. He'd sneak into my room afterward with his own cookies and we'd eat them under my blanket fort while he told me stories. When I'm better, he'd say, "I'll take care of you for once." Neither of us understood then that he'd never get better, and I'd never stop bleeding for him. By the time I was 10, the monthly draws became every 2 weeks because Liam's condition was deteriorating. I missed school every other Friday to sit in the basement while they drained me. My teachers asked about my constant exhaustion, the bruises on my arms that never healed before new ones appeared. Mom told them I was anemic and clumsy. I tried refusing once, told my parents I had an important test. Dad grabbed my shoulders hard enough to leave marks. "Would you rather take a test or keep your brother alive?" Liam heard the argument and that night tried to refuse the transfusion, saying he'd rather die than keep hurting me. Mom sedated him. The next morning, he apologized for his outburst, and I realized they'd convinced him that not taking my blood was selfish, that he'd be forcing me to watch his hero die. When I was 16 and he was 18, Liam had a major bleed that almost killed him. After that, weekly transfusions became the new normal. Every Monday, I'd sit in that chair for 3 hours while they took more than they should. I started fainting in class, collapsing during basketball practice. When the school nurse demanded a real medical exam, the doctor pulled me aside afterward. "You're dangerously anemic," he said. "Your body can't keep up with this donation schedule. You need to cut back to once a month maximum, or you'll have permanent damage." My parents nodded solemnly in his office, then laughed about it in the car. "Once a month," Mom mocked. "Does he want Liam to die?" They put me on prescription iron supplements and vitamin injections to keep me functional enough to donate, but told Liam I was just out of shape from quitting sports. I got accepted to college with a basketball scholarship based on my performance before my body started shutting down. For the first time, I saw a future beyond needles and blood bags. I told my parents I was going, that Liam could get transfusions from a blood bank. Mom laughed, thinking I was joking. When she realized I was serious, she went pale. "The blood bank isn't reliable," she said. "You're his only guaranteed match." Dad held up my acceptance letter and ripped it in half. "You're not going anywhere." Then came the betrayal I never saw coming. They worked on Liam for days, showing him articles about blood shortages, contamination scares, people who died waiting for transfusions. They said I was exaggerating the side effects and lied that a doctor had cleared me medically. By the time they were done, my brother looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Please don't choose basketball over my life," he begged. I tried explaining I wasn't choosing basketball. I was choosing to stay healthy enough to help him long term, but all he heard was abandonment. That night, I heard him tell our parents to make sure I couldn't leave, maybe even look into legal ways to keep me home. 3 days before orientation, I came home to find my parents, Liam, and a lawyer in our living room. They'd drawn up papers making me legally responsible for Liam's care, including mandatory blood donation. The new schedule showed twice-weekly draws with careful supplement regimens to keep me optimally productive. If I refused, they'd sue me for attempted murder through medical neglect. "The increased frequency is temporary," Mom lied smoothly to Liam, "just until we find additional donors." But I saw the truth in the lawyer's paperwork. This was permanent. They'd calculated exactly how much blood they could take without killing me, how to keep me functional but too weak to run. I had 3 days to escape before they legally trapped me in a schedule that would bleed me out drop by drop. I stared at the papers, my hands trembling from more than just blood loss. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and pointed to the signature line with a manicured finger. My parents sat on either side of Liam, their faces masks of concern that didn't reach their eyes. I needed time. I set the papers on the coffee table unsigned. Dad's jaw tightened. He started to stand, but Mom touched his arm, keeping him seated. They'd rehearsed this, planned for resistance. That night, I packed my duffel bag, essentials only, digital copies of my acceptance letter, part-time savings, and no traceable electronics. The basement session would be tomorrow. They'd keep me down there for hours, draining enough to ensure I couldn't run. I lay awake, plotting. The house had 2 locked exits. My bedroom window was painted shut. The basement, however, was my unguarded exit. At dawn, I pried open the old window, climbed out despite bruised ribs, and ran through the woods to a payphone at the gas station. My friend Nathy picked me up and hid me for the night. 2 days and a circuitous bus route later, I staggered onto campus, just before orientation. Doctors admitted me for malnutrition and anemia. The admissions office held my scholarship with sympathy. Campus security intercepted my parents' initial attempts to contact me. I changed my number. With legal help, I fought back. Child endangerment charges, restraining orders, and custody of myself granted by the court. Liam, relocated to live with an aunt, finally understood their lies. We rebuilt our bond, pursued legitimate medical care for him, and I became a social worker in training to help others in medical prisons. I recovered academically, joined intramural basketball, now playing because I chose to. My parents were convicted of medical abuse and neglect. Liam and I were called to testify. We stood together, survivors instead of victims. We're healing. He's getting better, no longer reliant on my blood. I learned that love doesn't demand you bleed out for another. True love lets you live. Sent Lori a text today. "I'm here, I'm safe, see you at graduation." Finally, I'd earned my future. Blood and sacrifice no longer required.